Get started, so we have lots of time to talk. I know we have a smaller crowd, but that's okay. So I'm Ms. Smith. I don't think I have anybody new, but I am the chair for the Networking and Convergence Technologies program here at TCC. I'm Jeanette Smith-Perrone, call me Ms. Smith. And what we're doing today is we're covering some of the things you need to do before you start looking for work. You need to address your resume, your cover letter. We talked about that in the previous session, and how to improve that communication, the written form of communication that represents you. Now we're going to talk about the nonverbal and verbal form of communication that represents you. And that's your professional presentation. So what does a professional look like? And this is a challenge, because if you haven't worked in an industry where you had to be professional, you wouldn't know what that looked like. So we have men's dress, suit with a jacket, trousers, dress shirt, tie, trouser socks, and dress shoes. No shoes without socks, please. And I've seen it.
Put trousers tucked into your socks?
No trousers tucked into your socks. And do make sure ironed, clothes are pressed, you look clean and ready to go when it comes to the clothing. Loud ties, guys, you could use a loud tie, it's okay. Tends to be what guys use to express themselves. But keep everything else about you somewhat muted, meaning colors that are not flamboyant. An example, when I send the husband out and he's dressed in his suit, he has a dark suit normally, or tan, so it would be brown, blue, or black, no pinstripes. It'll generally be a more formal form of suit, so they're physically heavier, not evening dress, but we're talking about they're made to fit heavier, not linen suits. They don't have a lifespan, very short lifespan. And I always send him out with a tie that works with that. If you're colorblind, and there is a certain population that are, have someone help you choose these colors and hang them together in your closet. Yes?
I have a question. Is it necessary to wear a tie?
I would strongly recommend that you remember that this is a formal presentation. Okay? A man's shirt with the button undone on the top and not wearing a tie does not come off as nice as the one with the tie. Generally, dress shirts are actually not meant to be worn that way, so they look funky to begin with. And if you don't know how to tie a tie, please come visit me. I will show you how to do that. I'm very good at tying ties. One of the first things I learned as a young girl was to tie a men's tie. It was very important in my family. So, ties, yes. Trousers, socks, yes. And dress shoes, yes. In my house, if you don't want a job, we call that going out with the combat boots on. That means that you have not chosen the right shoes for what you're wearing, and it's going to make a difference in how you are perceived. Yes, combat boots are black, but they don't go with a suit. Yes?
They're not black anymore.
Okay, they're green now. They're not black anymore. Or they tan. It depends on where you're going, right? So that sort of wipes that out, but traditionally they were black. If you're Air Force, they almost tend to be black. So let's say it's summer and it's hot and you don't want to wear a suit jacket. Okay, guys, you can wear dress pants, a dress shirt, and a tie. That hasn't gone away. Trousers, socks, and dress shoes. I still strongly recommend you stay with the jacket. So how many of you sweat? Very good. The suit jacket hides this thing that's happening to you when you're nervous. Okay? This is one reason to wear a suit. Your presentation will be better partially because you feel more professional. I call it the armor. Okay? So you're going to feel different, hence you're going to present better and you're going to be more formal. I want you to avoid the thick wallet. I've seen a lot of this, thick wallet sticking out of the back pocket. It makes a suit fit wrong. Okay, so do not have a thick wallet. Women, they'll move to a smaller purse. Guys, move to a smaller wallet. Get rid of the pocket full of change. There's nothing more distracting in an interview than hearing ching, 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 as you're rattling the pocket or the keys, or pocket of change, or the keys in the key ring. Let's be honest, play it safe. Avoid the wild prints, contrasting colors, or hats. I know you're a character, but please remove those. And no utilikilts. Save those for after you are working for the company, but on the interview, no utilikilts. No shorts, no jeans, no Dockers. I'm asking you to step this up. Now, some people say, well, okay, this is going to be pricey. No, you can go and I'm going to point to a particular company, K&G. Guys, you can go in there and you get a suit for under $100.
2 for 3, actually.
2 for 3. I mean, if you buy 2 suits, you get the third one. Or you buy 1 suit, you get 2. They have all sorts of sales. JCPenney is another good option for suits for guys. Sears, forget it, it's not there.
Yeah.
Yes?
When you say no dockers, are you talking about tan slacks, or are you talking about slacks?
I'm talking about there's a step up for guys. You go from jeans to dockers, which is like medium casual, upper level casual kind of clothes. And then you make, and by the way, you wear those at Walmart. Okay, now have I put those pants in a line for you?
Yeah.
That's Walmart employee, is docker pants. Or they could be any number of pants that are like dockers. They're normally a linen or a canvas or a cotton kind of pant. And then you're going to go into, especially JCPenney, it's a good field trip for you guys. You're going to go the next step and you're going to see the dress pants. Now, dress pants that are heavier hang better. So difference in price, difference in hang on you, how they fit you. And your weight is a big difference. If you're a guy and you're heavier weight, don't buy pleats, please. Don't buy cuffs in your pants. These are things that just don't look right. So dress for your size and make sure that you select clothing that is appropriate for the job. Now, when we say appropriate for the job, I haven't even shown you what the guys look like here. Well, we should show you. So here's my picture of a bunch of guys. So this guy's wearing a sweater, pair of dockers. I wouldn't say, look at the shoes. Okay, that's his Saturday best, I think. I wouldn't call that job interview clothes, but we're here. This gentleman, he's wearing it looks like a jacket, and probably a leather jacket, shirt, and tie. That's acceptable. Shoes, acceptable. This gentleman, here's the step up, but he's not dressed for a job where you're going to be paid over $15 an hour. Okay, you're setting your limits here. Gentleman next door, no tie. Yeah, I'd say he's trying to go the direction of dress, but just hasn't gone there. Might as well go there. I'll let you know, my husband just applied for a job, was hired, with a company that he walked in what I dressed him in, so he's in the suit, he's got the whole look going. And he walks in and, you know, they're like, oh my God, this is a great, great fit. We're sorry, we're only going to pay you $10 an hour. It's his field. It's his bliss. He's going to do it. He likes what he does. The first thing he did is he's upped the level of dress, the dress code in the employer's environment, because he dressed to their dress code as soon as he came in. So he interviewed in the suit, came to work in the dress code that the employer wants, which, by the way, no one else is doing, and they're soon going to find out they're going to have to do. So it's not what you're getting paid, it's how you want to be treated in the interview. Does that make sense? If you want the job, it doesn't matter what the pay is. I've already told you, we go for bliss, right? So make sure you are a slam dunk for that job, and how we do it is choosing a better choice. Now, yellow tie, he's going a little bit on the edge there. He's being really, but he's gone everything else, pretty good. He's doing okay. Guy in the end, best choice, right? All the way on the left, or right? Right, yeah, all the way on the right. Yes? Best choice?
Would those be considered dockers?
Which one?
Yellow tie.
Yellow tie? Yeah, that's what I said. It comes off as being not quite business, like dress casual kind of thing. And this guy definitely, he's in the casual range. I have a young man I'm mentoring, and he's going up, and he's 18, and he's a little young to pull off a suit comfortably, and also he's just going to have the money, honestly. So he has a leather jacket, a nice pair of pants, a nice shirt, and a tie. Pulls it off well. So that's more like along this line here. So I think that that's a good direction for the guys. By the way, in this instance, everything can be pulled off here, but the suit jackets at Kmart, the suit jackets, you have to go to K&G or JCPenney. Now, I would suggest if you buy a suit jacket, buy the matching pants and stick with it. Don't do this mixing and matching kind of thing. It's not as effective for guys to pull off the professional look. And we actually have a gentleman here who is wearing the professional look. Tom, would you please, can you stand up without taking out the camera? Okay. So here's Tom. Tom came in the professional look. He's wearing the suit and the pants and the dress shoes. He's got the whole thing going. Nice work, Tom. However, Tom, I would jazz up that tie, personally.
I thought about
You and I got to talk about that. Okay. The tie is where you can make a statement. Be careful. Not too wild. Try to stay away from the test pattern for the TV, but you can make a statement with the tie. So now let's look at women. Oh, I've got so much to say about women. So women, I'd like you to wear a suit. I know it's easy. You've got dresses in your closet. You're thinking, you know, I can just throw that on and go. I'd like you to wear a suit with a jacket and trousers. Now, I'm going to tell you this. What do you feel comfortable in? I took a student shopping at K&G so that she could find what she was going to wear. She'd never worn a suit in her life. And I had her trying on pants, and I realized watching her, she's fussing and pulling at them. She is highly uncomfortable. She has never worn pants. She's always worn skirts. I went back, grabbed a skirt, had her try on the skirt, we're done. Life is good. Wear what you are comfortable wearing. Yes, you got to get comfortable in wearing a suit, but if it's pants you feel comfortable in, buy a suit with pants. If it's skirts, fine. But we're going to talk a little bit about where those knees need to be, okay? So, yes, I suggest you go the direction of a suit. And the reason is, it's, again, how are you perceived? Are you a professional? Are you going to be taken seriously? Or is it time to think about, you know, are you giving off the impression that all they're going to want you to do is make coffee and go buy the donuts? And by the way, I have been asked that. And it wasn't during the time that I was wearing a suit. Once I started wearing suits, I stopped being asked to go get the coffee. I know, that's so sexist, isn't it? But it's the reality for our world. It's so sad. I've worked in a man's world for 35 years. It's only until I got here I started working around, well, a whole lot of women. So the suit jacket skirt, dress shirt, nylons, never naked knees, and dress shoes. And then you can go the direction of the guys as well with the dress shirt, the pants, the trouser socks, and the dress shoes. Or you can go with the dress nylon and dress shoes. You can go that direction. However, small purse, get rid of the saddlebag, please. We don't need to be hauling that into the interview with us. Okay, so small purse, low to medium heels, get rid of the 4-inch plus heels or the, you don't need to be any taller. It's not going to make a difference. They're all 6 foot tall where you're going, and an extra 4 inches is not going to make enough difference. You need platforms. We don't have those anymore. I wouldn't even wear them, fall off them. Also, it's really important when we're talking about heels, who we interview with. Microsoft, as an example, does the gauntlet interview. You come in the morning, you go through HR, then you are handed off from one member of their team to the next. The further you make it through the day, the more likely you are to be hired. No joke, I didn't get to meet the VP until 7 o'clock at night. Okay? Never wear heels to a Microsoft interview because they walk you all over Microsoft campus, which is pretty darn huge. So keep in mind, you dress for what you're going to have to do. You don't know if you're going to have to walk in downtown Seattle or if maybe they're going to walk you all over a corporate campus. So dress in something that you can walk in and look like you're not going to be falling over. Also, keep the cleavage and the knees covered, please. This is really important. It's a distraction. I know that's another one of those things, but it is. It's a distraction. So I want those skirts down at least to your knee. I sound like I'm like from the 50s, don't I? God. And of course, deal with the cleavage. It's important because it is going to change how people look at you. Now, her versus everyone else. Does anybody put her as a page in a law office?
Flight attendant.
Flight attendant? We've automatically judged her, haven't we? We've automatically said where we're going to put her in society. And that's sad. However, I wouldn't go. This is too long. No maxi skirts here. Too long. You're looking frumpy. Go with pants. Let's stay with the pants or the knee length. You're much safer. Try not to go into bright colors. I see a lot of church suits. All of the colors of Easter, and they're cute, but please, it's not going to come off well in an interview. You're going to clash with the office furniture. So stay away from those. Stay with the muted colors. It's okay. Remember, you're making that first business impression. That make sense? If you're looking for a little flair, I mean, we've got colorful shirts here. I don't agree with her necklace choice, a bit heavy on the color. Jewelry should be kept to a minimum, but we'll talk about that in a moment. Okay, I'm going to have the hard discussion with all of you. It's the hygiene discussion. I can tell you that this has blown more interviews for people I have met than anything else. Guys, shower, shave, don't work out before you come to the interview. Give yourself lots of time to get there so you're not all sweaty. I actually tell people to arrive half-hour early because the air conditioning in the office will probably cool you down and stop you from sweating. Somebody's there, experience. Someone's laughing from experience. Business style haircut. I took a young man who had nice long hair, he's very cute, and I said, "You want a job? Come with me." And we went down to Master Cuts, and I said, "You trust me, right?" "Yes, I trust you." And they proceeded to give him not quite a military haircut, but almost there. I would call it the GQ haircut for the guys. And always shave. I suggest you shave the night before. Your face in the morning is puffy. If you shave the night before, you will have less fuzz by noon if you shave the night before. How do I know these things, right? Because I've dealt with a lot of people interviewing. I know what it takes. Fingernails. You know, no long fingernails. Make yourself clean cut. This comes from a lot of different places. So the business style haircut for men and women. Women just pulling your hair back into a ponytail is not sufficient. I want you to make sure that you can actually have that presentation. You feel comfortable. Don't get your hair cut any closer than a week before the time you interview. You're going to be fussing with it. You're going to feel uncomfortable. It's not natural for you. I want you to get used to your hair. Don't make it too busy, like you've got to, do too much to make it work, too much hairspray, all of that. No cologne or perfume, please. You're in a small room, you're going to be sweaty trying to get there, you're anxious, you're going to smell twice as strong as wherever you were about an hour ago, so please no cologne or perfume. And this means your suit has to be clean, your clothes have to be clean. That means that if you have pets, you need to make sure you have a brush with you so you can brush off that cat hair or dog hair. By the way, I bag all suits. The cats don't even go near the suits. But also you need to make sure that you're in the position where you can not have body odor as a problem. Minimal makeup. I actually had, of all people, my sister was taking to an interview, gave her the suit, gave her the nylons, gave her the shoes, told her, okay, go forth and do. She came out. I was asking, she came out and I said, go back in and wash your face. She was dolled up for evening, I'm not sure where, probably the 70s. It was blue eyeshadow everywhere. Oh, it was, and I said, go inside, wash your face, please, no makeup. I wear no makeup. Now I consider myself to be okay when it comes to looks, but I have never worn makeup. And the reason is I've worked around electronics my whole industry experience. And if you do this, it becomes part of what you are doing. You leave it behind. And so I haven't worn makeup and I wear minimal jewelry because of that. But the reality is that's not what we're looking for. Now, you can put on a little makeup if it makes you feel more comfortable, but keep it light. Wear deodorant, please. Especially the guys, they forget. Please wear deodorant. And this is, by the way, from experience. Been there, done that in the closed interview room with somebody who hasn't had deodorant. Please do not smoke before the interview. Gum will not cover it up. Hand sanitizer won't cover it up. If you need a cigarette early, before you get there, have it. Go for a walk, air out, but non-smokers will smell it. And if that's a requirement at that company, it's going to be a deal killer for you. But beyond that, even if you're trying to quit, I understand, but beyond that, it is something that's overwhelming when you put you in a small space. So, please, no smoking before the interview. Clean your teeth and freshen your breath. Some people will have, coffee and a donut before they come in. They don't realize they're breathing coffee smell, which is sort of an odd smell. But clean your teeth. I mean, brush your teeth, that's a good thing. Sometimes, especially if there's a gap between when I leave and when I get to an interview, I will actually arrive and ask if I can use the restroom so I can just make sure I'm still all together at this point and I have nothing odd in my teeth from earlier in the day. No gum. I've actually sat through interviews where someone has been chewing gum the whole time, mostly because they're nervous, but it's very distracting. Clean your glasses. I know that sounds sort of funny, but people forget and they put fingerprints. Remove your sunglasses. I do want to see your eyes. Minimize the jewelry, very important. It's okay if you have multiple piercings. Just come in with only 2 okay, for the interview. Remove any other, even if you just have the holes in your face, it's okay. Just remove any other hardware. It's really important. My daughter brought up tattoos. She goes, should they cover them up? I said, I think that's something we're going to have to live with. It's there, it's obvious. But for guys, don't wear short shirts. Short sleeve shirts, wear long sleeve shirts. That's why in most societies we don't tattoo past the edge of the cuff, because you wear long sleeve shirts to cover your tattoos. Now, remember that these are things you're being judged upon. And you're like, well, that's not me. I'm a good worker and I present well, but they're going to judge based on this. Now, it doesn't mean that you're not a good worker. We've got to give them time to get to know you. And I don't want this to be the deal killer at the entrance to the door. Does that make sense? Okay. I know, it was the hard discussion. So, the marketing of you, your package. And I want you to think about this as dating. My students have already heard this from me. What would you show the other person if you wanted another date? Would you show them that, I don't know. What? You'd show them your muscles?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think if I was going maybe for a personal trainer, that might work. Okay? But I'll tell you, a personal trainer in a suit, that might be a really good presentation the first time out, right? So keep in mind that you're presenting yourself and you want to come off as your most formal, as your best. That's what you're aiming for. So it's okay when you're in the interview to ask questions about the company and the culture and the work. It's okay to ask. A lot of times they'll ask you, what do you want to know about the company? What kind of questions would you ask about the company? What would interest you? Yes?
Do you have like company traditions? Like
Company
or-
traditions. That might be a hard one. I would say, tell me a bit of, instead, I might say, tell me a bit about the culture of the company. How important are meetings? How are meetings held? That might be a way of asking that particular question. Explain how your previous experience applies to a particular aspect of the job. That's okay. No negative commentary about former employers or coworkers. How many of you want to hear about the old girlfriend or the old boyfriend? No, no one wants to hear about the old girlfriend or boyfriend. So it also says about who you are from the perspective of after you leave my company, how you're going to talk about me. And so you're setting up the relationships. You want to make sure you avoid those negative comments. Now I'm going to say something to you, and a lot of people don't understand this. They think that's their one time to ask, and it's not. This is the beginning of a relationship. Do you ask how much the guy earns on the first date? No. 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 Hopefully not. So don't discuss wage, salary, compensation, health care, etc. in the first interview. First of all, if you did your research, you will know what that company offers in the way of general benefits. If you applied, then they'll probably have a wage range posted for you on that particular job classification. Yes, go ahead.
And if you're a contractor, you're not going to be asking that of the company that you're working for.
Yes, if you're a contractor coming in as a temporary employee or a contract employee, it's a wage that's outside of that relationship. So I want you to break from asking this. This is where people go for questions, and it's the wrong place to go. Yes?
What if it's the interviewer who brought up the subject?
If they ask you, well,
sometimes they give you the benefit package and all that, and they talk to you about the wage, how much you want for that position.
we're past the first date when we're talking about these topics.
Sometimes in the first
But it could be inside there to see, especially, well, an example like my husband going out and getting his job recently with the company he wanted to work for. They actually brought it up in the interview. They brought up the wage disparity. They brought up, they tried to spice it up with benefits, which wasn't a big incentive. But yeah, they'll try selling at that point. So you have come in looking really good. Okay, you're a BMW in a Volkswagen shop. Okay, they're really excited about having you come in for this job. And they might actually start moving ahead and talking about these things. Doesn't mean that the deal is sealed. They're just trying to find out if they maybe are offering too low a bid for your skills. Does that make sense? Okay. we'll talk about how to answer these questions when they're asked of you, but we're talking first about what do you talk about, okay? I want you to think about this. Talk about what they like. Don't talk about you so much as what they like. And the reason I say this is if I'm dating, I'm going to talk about cars, because he likes to talk about cars. And I'm going to talk about dogs, because he likes to talk about dogs. Even if I have cats, I'm going to talk about dogs. So I am going to talk about what my interviewer has interest in. Sometimes this will start with the interviewer saying to me, I see here that you're into martial arts. I love martial arts. I used to study such and such when I was a kid. And then I'll say, wow, that's really cool. What did you like about that? You notice right there, I didn't ask, or I didn't say anything about what I do. I didn't say more about what I do and how I do it. Instead, I'm asking about their experience and what they enjoyed about it. So that's the focus I want you to have. Finding more out. Look at an interview as finding more out about the other person or the other company, which you won't know until you get inside the door. There's only so much research you can do on the outside. Does that make sense? Yes?
Are you saying that because we want to have other people talk about themselves because they like that, and we're establishing like a connection? Because it's not necessarily marketing you.
It is.
It is.
It is, because what you're doing socially is you're showing them that you're willing to talk about what interests them, not so much about me. You will talk about yourself. This is an interview about you, but this is also your only time to interview the company, to know more about them. So you need to talk to what they like. Does that make sense? Okay. I know it seems sort of flipped, like you think I should be in there talking about me because I'm selling me. We are marketing you. We're marketing you as somebody that fits their culture. And you can't fit their culture without knowing more about it. So the first 5 minutes is exceedingly important. Now I gave you a link, it's in Psychology Today. I'll show you that shortly, but it is about making that first impression. It doesn't matter what you're doing, it's that first impression. So you're on stage from the time you exit your car. Did you realize that? I watch for people to come to an interview. I watch them drive up, watch them get out of their car. How messy is that particular car? Clean your car, please. If you are using it to collect all of the miscellaneous debris of life, please clean it. Because that's going to show you what your office is going to look like, and I'm not too interested in that. It's going to show me how rushed you are. It's going to show me how prompt you are. It's going to show me how courteous you are, especially if you like push someone out of the way to get a parking spot. Or if you, basically it's behavior. I'm looking at your behavior. So I want you to realize that from the time you exit your car, you might be actually being interviewed at that time, whether you realize it or not. Be very polite and formal. This means using last names, making eye contact, shaking hands from everyone, from the security guard at the front door. You don't have to shake the security guard's hand, please. But you do have to be polite and make eye contact with the security guard. Don't blow people off. I have seen, I went to a client with another consultant, and the other consultant was from a different company who had been brought in to basically discuss the opportunity at the same time I was there. I walked in, spoke to the receptionist, introduced myself. We had a very good moment, talked to each other. I will be remembered, we talked. He immediately walked in and sat down with his back to her. She is more than likely going to give her opinion sometime along the way. I have actually had the HR person, I worked for homegrocer.com for a little bit, and the person who was hiring from HR, they were in a fishbowl kind of area with offices around the outside for interviewing and a reception area in the middle. I walked in, I went to find, when my appointment was to let them know I was there, and then I sat down and proceeded just to observe everyone that walked in. I made eye contact. I was paying attention to the room. I got in with this HR director, and the first thing she said was, "We want to hire you immediately." She said, "You're engaged, you're interested in the culture, you're paying attention to everyone around you. We know you're technically competent, we want you now." It's because I'm engaged. I'm actually interested in what's going on in the entire environment, and including the people who I haven't gotten to meet yet, but I might meet them in 5 minutes. So don't discount the person that you pushed out of the way for a parking spot might be your interviewer. Sit with good posture. I'm working on improving that on a number of people I know. I don't sit back in the chair. I actually sit up in the chair. I square my shoulders, chin up. Guys, sit with your knees closer together, please. Don't be too relaxed in the interview, okay? It changes how your suit looks. When you go to sit down, unbutton the button on the front of your suit, because your suit is not meant to be sat in, it's meant to be stood in. So unbutton your suit before you sit down. Women, we can leave ours closed because they're higher on the waist, but guys can't. Be polite, be honest, be genuine. This is exceedingly important because we know we can smell it a mile away when you're pulling one, when you're telling stories, okay? And it's hard to remember what you said if you're telling stories. So it's all about being honest and direct. So let's look at real quick here what Psychology Today has. And what Psychology Today went into was the same thing. It is about that relationship. That is what we're doing. It's about getting yourself organized and centered before that first interaction. Come in prepared. It's about choosing and paying attention to the nonverbal communication that you're sharing. And remember, it's never about you. That's really surprising that we always come down to that. That it's really about what that employer wants and what they're looking for. And you might be that person, but it actually is not about you. Now, I'm going to give you one thing that it took me a while to get this. I didn't actually learn it until I was in late 90s. I was observing a man, his name is John Healy. He's the owner for Continental Mills. Worked for them for a number of years. Man is phenomenal. He generates a huge amount of loyalty in his employees. Always amazing man. And I watched him as how he interacted with people, and I was wondering why do people seem so generally attached to him? And it came down to, I realized, every interaction he has, even if he knows you, starts with a handshake. So I'm just going to, I'm going to move out of the screen now too hard. Okay, right there. Now, you'll notice my hand's not wimpy, is it? No, I'm matching you strength for strength. But you can't grab me and go, put your hand up. Hi. That's not going to cut it, okay? You have to, you slide into one another, come together, and then shake hands.
What about the dead fish handshake?
No, okay, too low. No dead fish. See, you have to, we're coming in this way. We're going to come in along each other, marry at where our thumbs are. Relax, okay? Relax.
Oh, shake. I can't help that.
Oh, no, your elbow, relax your elbow. Oh, there we go. Much better. Okay, and we just shake. Now you notice what I did? Right here?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, if I want to make sure you really know I care, only, this is when I'm leaving, I might do this. But I'm the dominant one, you're not. So never do that in an interview. Okay? Very good handshake. That's a good handshake. Okay? No, don't reach around. You're not wrestling me. Okay, just like that. Very good. So you have to remember that what you're doing is, this is your first body contact with this other human. Good. Try to come in a little, it's sort of like, docking a ship a little more gentle. Okay, very good. And so you can come up and visit me before you leave, so I can, for the folks in the back, so you can get an idea of what a handshake feels like. Okay, never come in like this. Like, okay, so we just relax. Good, now let your fingers wrap around my hand. Okay, very good, like that. Okay, too aggressive. I know. She doesn't want to be wimpy. She's like, I don't want to. Okay, so a lot of it now, I want you to show me how you normally shake, because that's not how you normally shake hands. You normally go like this, don't you? Not really. Yeah. He's telling on you. Okay, so this is a good handshake, but let your hand relax along the contour of mine. Your hand's smaller, and it's okay. Good handshake. No, that was good. You have very long fingers. He wraps all the way around my hand. But this is good. Don't get into a control situation. Don't turn the hand over. It really is about docking a ship. But the handshake is exceedingly important. Please practice it. I mean, don't discount how important handshakes are, because you're going to be doing a lot of this moving forward. Go ahead and shake the guy's hand next door. Very good. Okay. Yeah. Now remember, if you change the angle, you come in from the top, you're dominating. If you come in from the bottom or you're a little wimpy, it's going to change how you proceed.
I've had bosses that had like really wimpy handshakes, and I've had bosses where they're like, they'll actually turn their hand to where their hand's on top of yours, like showing dominance.
Yeah.
And like squeezing the crap out of your hand.
Now remember, what did that just tell you? I learn a lot by the handshake. Now, when I first walk into an interview, I don't immediately thrust my hand forward. Okay? It's actually like we're deciding if we're going to hug. It's really close, okay? So what you're going to do is you're going to decide, okay, ships are going to dock. A lot of times the train of thought is you let the more dominant in the relationship initiate the handshake. And that can be true. So when someone walks into my office, and many of you have, I will not initiate a handshake in many cases. I don't stand up and initiate a handshake. It depends on the relationship. In an interview, I always get up and meet the person, not behind my desk, so I'm getting things out of the way, and I'll get up and sit with the person. So that's how I interview, because I want you to be more relaxed. But I always initiate the handshake. However, I do have people initiate. I don't hold it against them, but I want you to realize that there are some that might. The handshake is exceedingly important in our society. We shake hands, we meet eyes. It is how we initiate a relationship. I'll let you know that I've actually been hugged coming into a meeting the first time. Depends on how the culture where I'm going. And I always perform to the culture. I have actually worked with companies where I had to take my shoes off as I came in the door. And how did I know this? How did I know I needed to take my shoes off? There's a pile of shoes by the door. If there's a pile of shoes by the door, stop at the door and no, it'll be obvious. They're all lined up. Take your shoes off. This is why wearing those shoes is extremely important. I actually, socks. I actually brought little penny, slip-ons for what I was wearing, nylons. But it's important to understand the culture you're going to and to follow that culture, whatever it is, while you're there. And decide if you want to work there, because that's the next thing. Now the 30-second commercial. Here's a 30-second commercial. You should practice this. This should be something that's pretty easy for you to come up with and just say. It's a brief overview of you as a particular student in your program. So it just describes what you've been doing. This is the first 30 seconds of your interview. You've met, you've shook hands, you sat down, you are getting past the niceties of the introduction, and the interviewer might say, tell me a bit about yourself. Okay, there's your opening. It's the 30-second commercial. Now don't talk too fast. It doesn't need to be 30 seconds, but it should be where you can move through these concepts, and then at the end you take a breath. Because the rule of thumb is we don't talk until someone else takes a breath, right? But if at any point along the way you take a breath and the interviewer jumps in because they're so excited, don't say, no, I was not finished yet. Don't go there. That means you've got him. You've hooked him. Okay, we've thrown the line out, we're dangling and then we're pulling on it. We're like, yes, we're going. We have a conversation now. I've got your attention. You may have gotten their attention somewhere up here, or it may have taken you to here. If they get a little eye glazed, you're talking too fast. So do you see the value in that 30-second commercial? Okay, it's a way of you knowing the most important selling points. Think of it like a car. We're going to talk about what? I went and drove a Kia Soul over the weekend, just because. I'd never driven one before. I'm not impressed. But I went and saw a Kia Soul, and what did I get impressed by, or what was the salesman hitting me with in the first 30 seconds from sitting in the car? Cruise control, Bluetooth, toys. I realized that. The drive was, so-so.
You're driving a box for crying.
I know. It was not a fancy car, but it was cute. And I thought, okay, if I'm going to drive a Kia, I want to try that one. That one sounds interesting. But the point is that I heard about the toys. I heard about the fun things that made this an interesting car. And you have to think about that in your 30-second commercial. So, tough questions with a positive twist. So, you need to answer questions with a positive manner, even if they're negative. I've actually had employers go, no, wait a minute. That was meant to be a negative question. How did you turn that around into a positive answer? And I said, well, I really haven't had a negative experience along that line, but I always believe that I should be able to turn it into something much more productive. That was my answer for being questioned as to why I turned around a positive for a negative. So, give me, I'm on task. Go ahead, give me your best. I've been asked it and I couldn't answer a question.
So why did you work at the last place for 2 months?
Oh, why did I work at the last place for 2 months?
Why such a short period?
My last employer had a contract, and that contract came to an end, so they no longer needed me for that contract. I was hired on a contract basis.
What if you weren't?
Doesn't matter. I always put contract employment, or they changed their direction and they needed a different skill set. The choice was outside of your performance.
Are they gonna go check?
The only thing by law that they can check, unless you gave them an inside reference, is that your dates of employment, whether you had good performance, that's all. I mean, they can't go very far. Really, they can only go that you were employed there. They can verify that you worked in that company. Does that make sense? By law, they're not allowed to go too much deeper than that. And that's why you wouldn't put an inside reference for that company, if by chance. But, you know, honestly, why are you including that company in your resume? It's better to have a 6-month gap in employment where you were in a tough economy than to put in a negative experience in there. So this is where we can omit, but we cannot embellish on a resume. Yes?
Should we put all of our work experience in there, even if they were short?
It depends if it was positive. Like I said, you can omit, but you should not add when it comes to a resume. So let's change it into a question. I see that you have lots of experience here, but it was rapid succession. I'm asking the question. Tell me about why. And you could say, well, I was working temporary jobs in between while I was going to school. That's a good answer. I was in transition, and I didn't want to commit long-term to a company at that time, so I was actually working and looking for that right fit. And you know, sometimes you start with a company and you don't realize until you're there whether it's a good fit or not. It's never been a question of my skills, but I have to find the right place to work. And you might want to elaborate on what that right place is. Okay? Any other questions? I mean, come on, you guys have been asked some really hard ones.
These are more about the answers. Is it okay to even say it wasn't the right fit? And
Yes.
Is it okay to say I wanted to move on to further my experience or my knowledge or my
You can do that, but if it turns to be a trend, if you keep saying that every job you have, I moved on for improved experience, I moved on for, then they're going to know that that's your behavior. So you may want to vary that I was here for this duration for a contract. And they'll say, well, why didn't you leave that job? Because I really like the culture. And what did you like about the culture? I really like the culture because, and this is where you're finding out about the culture you're in, or the job that you're going into. I'm a helping personality, and I really like being involved in my work and sharing my experience and being able to help the company improve. And it was a very restricted job. I only had this role, and I couldn't go beyond that role. Or you could say that the company culture was not as open to volunteerism. I'm not really into volunteerism. See how I'm turning it around? Does that make sense to you? Yes. Tough question?
Yes, it is. Which would you value more, personal integrity or employment security?
So I think they go hand in hand. Personal integrity is the first line of defense for employment security and for the benefit of the company. If I'm not an individual with a strong sense of integrity, then how can I expect the company to have the resources necessary to protect their assets? So now I've changed that from being forced to choose to saying they're both important. That make sense? Okay. Others? Are you writing these down? So I was taking notes? Okay. So what other tough questions? Has anybody been asked about criminal history and how to struggle with how am I going to talk about that? Let me give that one to you. Someone asked me that question. Go for it. You're going to
I
ask.
have a different question.
Oh, okay. Well, you're going to ask me this one right now. Then you can ask yours. So ask about the, couch it so that it makes it sound like I'm going to have to struggle with it.
Okay, have you ever had any trouble with the law?
Well, in my youth, I had some missteps, but you know, I was able to correct those and learn from the experience. I decided that I wanted to really turn my life around, and so I went to school and I worked very hard, and I'm here today. I can honestly say that I have really turned my life around. So that is an answer for somebody that has a little bit of a checkered past. If you are a felon that's recent, you may say, I was convicted of, I'm not going to go with too hard, assault. I was convicted with assault. It was a very bad place and time in my life. I have worked through those particular issues. I've spent my time through the court system, but that was 5 years ago, and I've worked very diligently to correct the direction of my life. And my education is part of that change. These are hard ones. You know, anytime you deal with that kind of issue in your past, it's hard to give the best answer. But I want to let you know it's important to give a genuine and honest answer. Does that make sense? It doesn't preclude you from employment, but it will. A good example is on your reference check, it might say, have you been convicted of anything including misdemeanors in the past 10 years? A lot of medical, by the way, healthcare, will have that one. You can't work for Multicare or Providence or Franciscan if you've had anything in the past 10 years. If you have anything in your history with a vulnerable population, forget it. You're not working for those companies. Does that mean you can't get a job? No, it means you're not going to be working in healthcare. But in the past 10 years, have you been clean? Nothing going on nefarious? Even if before that it was something like armed robbery, they're still only going to look back 10 years and judge you on the last 10 years. Does that make sense? So it's better to be honest. Now, if you're going to work for the Emerald Queen Casino and you do the FBI background check and it says, have you had any misdemeanors? They mean forever. Back into the time that you were 18 years old. So that means, yes, anything but a traffic ticket you have to put on there. Parking and traffic tickets don't count. So anything. If you don't put it on there and it's back 10, 15 years, it doesn't matter, you're not getting the job. If it's on there, you'll still get employed at the casino. But it has to be back 10 plus years. Okay, this is really important. So that distance is an important factor, what you've done since then, but there are some jobs you just can't apply to. Finance, federal. You can work for the state, yes.
Do you have any idea, like, going through divorce, my ex-husband and I had a mutual restraining order, does that even count?
It can, but it's not, it has to be an actual conviction, not just
You can't talk to each other.
Well, a restraining order is not the same. If you were in court and you were charged with assault, that's different than a restraining order, okay? So you really, and these are the things you don't bring up in an interview. You don't say, oh, well, my husband and I had mutual restraining orders. Would that make me feel a little bit uncomfortable, maybe put me to pause? But it could. One, I'm thinking I might have an abusive husband to deal with, or I might have an aggressive employee. By the way, I've been in both situations having to negotiate that one, and it's challenging. So it's better to be honest, it's better to be direct and get the elephant out of the, get the elephant in the room talked about. If they want to judge you based on that, then that's not the right culture for you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, and you had a question. What was yours?
I've been asked this several times. It'll be something about when have you faced someone asking you a question that you didn't know the answer to, and how did you react to it?
Do you want me to answer that one for you?
Yeah,
Every day I'm asked questions, I have to go and research or look for more information. I have no trouble looking for a solution and finding the best solution for that particular issue because it's not always the same. So I take the perspective that I learn by doing. I learn by finding more information about a particular issue or a particular need. So the goal is for me to address the issue, find the best solution, and to provide the best customer service, the best relationship I can with my clients. So now I've taken it from a situation where I might be able to talk about not being able to find information to saying, I will find the information. I will find the right solution rather than saying I can't. Those questions are couched in a way to get you to admit failure. I've already told you the only failure is completely stopping, right? So we always keep plowing forward. There is no technical failure. So closing the deal. You want to end with an invitation to contact you with more information as needed. Do not ask when you'll hear back. It's too forceful. Don't try to end it that way. So you're almost ready. So you're going to revamp your image. That's a number one. Time to go shopping. I'll have a dress rehearsal. Practice the interview questions in the commercial, because practice will help you. And you're interviewing by doing. And what that interviewing by doing means is that I want you to apply to as many jobs as you can. If you're looking, you're going to choose a region or an industry. And if you're not finding success, you're going to push out beyond that to other industries within that region. And you're going to push out beyond that to other industries and other opportunities outside of your region. You need to make that transition very quickly because time is of the essence. And the idea is that you have a shelf life, right? You're coming out and you're really excited about what you're doing, but if you languish for 6 months trying to find that next job, the employer might say, well, what were you doing for 6 months? I was looking for work. That tells me that either you're not being real diligent about it, or maybe there's something I don't want. Maybe you're a lemon. Maybe I'm concerned about, whether you're actually going to sell or not. So you need to make sure that you're going to be very aggressive. Now, my longest time where I worked as a contract employee where I was truly looking for work, technically not employed to the level I wanted, was 10 months at the .com crash. Our industry was hosed. It was much like 2008 here. And in that time, I sent out nationwide over 3,000 resumes or applications. I ended up being employed here in Washington State at the end of the 10 months. And I was really diligent, and I was interviewing a lot. The problem is that there were a lot of other people in competition. At your skill level, you're not unique enough to pick and choose where you work. Yes, choose. Say, I really want to work for Disney, or I really want to work for Microsoft or Amazon. And choose and pursue that. But I also want you to realize that you need experience, and that's getting out there and applying as many places, and then possibly changing jobs in fairly rapid succession right after college. And that's okay. Or while you're transitioning into your bachelor's degree program. But it is a numbers thing. It's about you learning how to sell yourself, and that might take quite a few interviews before you feel comfortable with the sale and with the process. You may be going through lots of different types of interviews. It might take a little while before you get to a group interview. The first time you hit one of those, you might not do very well. Okay? First time you have a phone interview might be a real challenge. So it helps to get exposed. And be okay. It's not a bad thing that everybody doesn't like you. Okay? Interviews are interviews, and you have that 15 minutes to sell yourself and to get in there. It's a very short window, and I want you to realize that when you are looking for work, you're going to find that you'll probably pass through a lot of hands before you find the right place to settle and work for a while. And it's okay. Don't let it get you down. You are valuable, and you have a marketable skill. Don't get down because you're being not bought with each interview. You always got to keep going. And I've had students who've interviewed for 6 months before they got the cool job. I had one student who interviewed for 6 months all over. He had really great skills, had certifications, and he ended up being hired by Symantec in Oregon. Happy as a clam right now. He has so many training opportunities, and he's really excited about what he's doing. The reality is that sometimes it takes you a while to find that right place. And arrive early, organized, and prepared. If you arrive early, you're impressing them, and you have time to cool down, be less sweaty, right? And you're organized, you're not nervous, you'll be ready to talk about yourself, and you'll be more prepared. And also you have time to observe the savannah, to observe how everyone is moving and how the culture in the company works, and if you'd like to work there. Question in the back.
Yes, how did you have time to research, 10 companies a day?
Well, the internet is quite the boon for us doing research at this point. I think that's the thing. The internet has really changed how we learn about companies and what we can talk about. I tend to look at what the company does for an industry, recent news about the company in social media, recent information about sales or acquisitions. I always tend to get hired on sales and acquisitions. Companies want me because I'm really good at absorbing everybody else. I'm absorbing the new departments and choosing where they're going to end up and how we're going to function as an IS department. So you look at the organization's website, but that's their public image. It's not going to tell you a whole lot. There are places where employees do talk about their employers and their managers. Mind you, those tend to be very negative commentary, so keep that in mind. You don't want to get all the negative side, because you don't know how long it took them to get there. But you do need to look at the company and what they're doing and whether where they're going is something you want to do. A good example is if you're being hired in a call center for Comcast, you know that Comcast is in Tacoma, or they're actually in Fife, and they have a fair amount of opportunity. It's good to know more about Comcast as an organization. Does that make sense? Also, as a student, you do have the ability to research and say, I'm doing a paper, and to call up a company and get information that you might not get as an applicant. Okay? Yes?
Would you recommend like Monster.com?
Oh, where to look for a job. I prowl certain places. Craigslist, because it's cheap, so people tend to advertise there. Monster, Hot Jobs, Career Builder. For around here, that's probably the main ones. AccessWA.gov, so the state employment. That one is really good for both state and federal and county jobs, because that's where they'll get advertised. Although a lot of the state positions that I've either been placed in or other people have placed have been on Craigslist or Monster. So it comes down to you get used to how that search engine works and how to find the jobs in that particular region. Don't discount federal employment, especially if you have a clean a clean criminal history. Federal employment can be lucrative. It just takes a long time to be hired into federal roles. Very long. The uptime is normally 120 days, minimum. Yes?
Do you call or email or check up on your application, and how long is the appropriate amount of time before you hear back, or can you just write it off after?
So no, I don't. I look at it that I'm a commodity, and if I've interviewed, I've presented myself to you, and you're not interested, you're not interested. If I caught your interest, and especially on these large engines that we apply to, if I hit their table and they're interested in me, they will contact me, and then we'll arrange an interview. If they're not interested, it could be a number of things. It could be they're not hiring, or they haven't finished the hiring process, or they had a change in business. I can't get stuck in that. I'm only looking at opportunities. And so I keep moving when I'm looking for that next opportunity. I don't just wait, and I don't hover on one job. And partially that comes from being turned down many times. If you apply 3,000 times, you've technically been turned down 3,000 times, okay? So you just gotta blow past that and realize it's you and looking at what roles you would like. Please don't wait until you're burnt out to look. It's really hard if you're trying to transition jobs. And follow the interview with a thank you note. If you get an interview, make sure if all communication's been via email, it's okay to send a thank you note via email to the people who interviewed, and not as a group, individual emails, please. However, if I'm in a position where I'm meeting the principals of a company, the owners of a company, I will send them a handwritten, and I don't write beautifully, but I will send them a handwritten thank you note. I will generally pick the card out, it'll be a custom card, and I will send it. It depends on what my role is, but if it's a principal, if I actually met the owner, then that person has control over hiring me. And if I really want to be there, if I've decided that is where I want to be, I will send a thank you note in handwriting. Yes.
What is the impact of social media in the hiring process?
That should be another one of the topics. I'll have to put that on my list. The problem with social media is that you're giving us too much information. I have a Facebook page, it just holds, it's a placeholder so I can get in and look at other people's information when I need to. I don't have a Facebook page that's a traditional Facebook page. I don't put all my personal information, my family information out there. I have a professional page on LinkedIn, and many of you have joined me. My students, I request that you join me on LinkedIn so I can keep an eye on where you're going and what your careers look like. I have a professional image. Any websites that are tied to me are all based on a professional side, or they're washed to look professional, meaning I don't have any private information like me, partying on the beach and having rum, okay? I try to avoid getting those pictures taken anyway, but the reality is that public image is really important because it's available. In the past, we might have said, oh, you're only seeing what you're showing me. The problem is I can research you. And guess what? Yes, I research the people who come to meet me, but who I also interview, or I interview with. I had a meeting not too long, actually at the beginning of this week, with someone, and yes, I Googled that particular individual, and yes, they had a LinkedIn page, which was quite populated, and they also had a Facebook page with no security, which was quite populated. And so I got to know a lot about that person before we even sat down to talk. And her response when we sat down, she said, well, let me tell you a bit about myself. I said, why don't you, I've read your LinkedIn page and your Facebook page, so you can tell me more about, say, this company or that company you worked for. And her face completely changed. She's like, wow, you now know me. Pretty much the next 15 minutes would have been me telling you that. And I said, well, let's move past that. Are you comfortable with that? And she goes, well, yeah. And we got into the conversation. But I already had a background about the individual. Now, that may be the reason you're actually not called in once you have actually been called for an interview. If they cancel an interview, it could be that. So do look at your Facebook or your MySpace or any of your social media to see if by chance you have an image you need to correct on that side. And once you post it, does it go away?
No.
No. What's digital is forever. So keep that in mind. Try to avoid the party pictures and some wild things that you might do. It could be dangerous when it comes to increasing your wage over time and changing jobs. Any other questions? Yes. Go ahead and turn that off.
Probably stop